Hey guys, welcome back to the Hood Knees Fantasy Football Podcast. This is episode 10, waiver wire pickups for week 1. I have with me BBTB.
AKA Bench 550,
No, that's
AKA
enough. All
Jonas,
right. And
AKA
MFB, Spreadsheet Slammy. He's back. He missed the last episode,
Yes, sir.
but he's back. He made it out the blender. We're just going to jump right into it, bro. We're going to try and keep this one short. Just give you guys who you should pick up in your leagues if they're available. We're going to start with QBs, just take it from the top. I think the number one pickup is Baker Mayfield. Godwin is back. Mike Evans is Mr. Consistent. Mayfield is playing great, 4 touchdowns. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Baker Mayfield, number one quarterback. Pretty sure he's on your guys' waivers. Go pick him up. He's shining, proving me wrong.
He's 35% rostered in Yahoo, so he's likely on your waivers.
Yeah, I mean, they're going up against Detroit next week, so it is definitely a tougher matchup, but still a good streaming option, I'll say.
Yeah, I think if you need to stash a quarterback and you don't have a decent one, you can't. He showed that he can do it, so I think you take Mayfield if you need him. And then we also have Geno Smith for QB.
Yeah, I think not amazing passing week, but we saw a rushing touchdown from him, which if you can get any rushing upside in a weekly streamer, it's a decent shot for you to win your week.
Yeah, they play in New England next week, so I don't know how good of a streaming option he is, but I think DK makes a bounce back, and then they could get similar work from Tyler Lockett and then also Jackson Smith and Jigba. So not too many big QB plays this week. So those two are probably the best ones that are available. Any other QBs, guys?
No, I mean maybe Derek Carr, but that's pretty much it.
Derek Carr played against Carolina. You can stash him on your team. I don't know if he'll be as good as you might want him to be, but who knows? Maybe, we did talk about in our previous episodes about how they changed the offense.
Yeah, just praying he throws to Olave. Anyways,
Yeah.
you and a ton of other people for sure.
yeah.
All right, that's it for QBs. Let's move on to wide receiver. Let's start off with, I think the top pickup is Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
the Cowboys.
That would definitely be my top pickup. Especially since Jake Fergie is hurt, right? I think he has a PCL sprain. Is that what I read?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's going to be out for some time. Cooks will probably see, at least a little bit more target share there. He had 7 targets, not too many yards, got a touchdown. He is 30% rostered. It is pretty heavy, but if he's available, he's pretty much like a must snag for your team.
Jake Ferguson's an MCL, and he's questionable for week 2, so they're not. He might be able to make it. It was not as bad as they fear.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Brandon Cooks. I mean, if he's out there, I think you take him, man. I mean, CD takes all the attention from the corners, and then Brandon Cooks can get touchdowns. So good pickup for sure. I think one of my top pickups for wide receiver is Alan Lazard over in Jets offense, man. He had 9 targets, 6 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Just to note, one of those touchdowns was in garbage time. Came from Tyrod Taylor, so just remember that. But him and Aaron Rodgers played together in Green Bay, so they have a connection already. So I think him and Garrett Wilson are going to do a lot of the receiving there, but he's only rostered in 2% of leagues. He's definitely available. If you're later on the pickup order for waivers, look for Alan Lazard. He could be a good stash. Let's move on to Alec Pierce from the Colts. He had 125 yards and a touchdown. He only had 3 targets. Do you guys think he's worth a pickup or?
I think in deeper league formats, he's worth a stash. You know, if you want like a deep flex play, you play in a double flex league. It's a crazy high upside pick. Now, the bright side here is that, Anthony Richardson, he doesn't do the short throws like through the middle to the sideline, 5 yard out. Nah, bro. He either going like a bomb or he's rushing it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
that's kind of where Alec Pierce like shined at. And at the, kind of at the dismal abyss of Michael Pittman, right? Because that's not really Michael Pittman's game, right? Which we clearly
Right.
saw from the stat line. So it's like a very high upside type of flex play if you play him.
So just to note, Josh Downs, who's the number 2 wide receiver on that team, was out this week. So if he returns week 2, Alec Pierce might take a hit and more of that work could go to Josh Downs, just so you guys are aware.
Mm-hmm.
So if Josh Downs doesn't play, Pierce might be flex worthy in like MFB said, double flex league, or if you're just desperate, you just need something, anything, he's there. Let's move on. You guys, anything else on Alec Pierce?
No.
Nope.
Cool. Greg Dortch from the Cardinals, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 47 yards. Clearly a much better receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know why we drafted that guy.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
trash. That's why.
Panic.
No panicking. But no, Greg Dortch. I think Michael Wilson had the touchdown, but I think Greg Dortch is the number 2 after Marvin Harrison, or at least he proved that he can get there, get open, and get targets.
Yeah.
From Kyler Murray. So I mean, you can stash him if you want to use a waiver claim. If you're in a fab system, I wouldn't spend a lot on him at all. He's more of like a stash and just see. If you want, you can wait till waivers clear. You could probably get him for free. If you're nervous, someone else is looking at him. It's a very competitive league. You can take a late shot on him in the waivers. I think that's it for wide receiver. Any other thoughts on these guys?
No.
I think with Greg Dortch, it's a matter of can he sustain this target share in the upcoming weeks, right?
Right.
You would guess they feed Marvin, Harrison more.
He only had 4 targets. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even Trey McBride more. Trey McBride, he had decent target share, but I don't know if he can upkeep the target share. Yeah, of course he'll be good. We'll tell in the coming weeks. I don't foresee it being that way, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they played a tough Bills defense. McBride led in targets with 9, but yeah, I mean, Greg Dortch did. Hey, I mean, he caught 6 of his targets. So, yeah, they're definitely going to start throwing more to Marvin Harrison for sure. But anyways, I think that's it for wide receivers. Let's go ahead and move into running backs. Number 1 running back pickup, J.K. Dobbins. 10 carries for 135 yards, 13.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. He split with Gus Edwards, but clearly more efficient. Gus Edwards was irrelevant. I have him on my team. And I mentioned this in the last episode. I didn't know they had J.K. Dobbins. I literally ignored the Chargers depth chart. I was like, that team is irrelevant. They're not going to do anything this year. J.K. Dobbins is one of the top, if not the top, pickup off the waivers this week.
Easily.
He's definitely the top pickup without a doubt. As far as pre-week 1 drafts, I was definitely trying to put some chips in the Chargers backfield. It wasn't more so on J.K. Dobbins just because he's so injury prone, right? But if we do see a healthy year from him and Harbaugh will keep running with him, then this could be possibly waiver wire of the year. He's a must use for your waiver. You need to claim him if he's not rostered in your league, pretty much.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just a matter. The only negative I see is, will Gus Edwards still split carries evenly with him, or will they phase out? If I had to put my coach hat on, I might still split the carries no matter how efficient he is, depending on the game script. Just because, he's an injury-prone player. So
Right.
you're not going to give him a workhorse role, right?
Yeah, I agree. Now he had what, 3 season-ending injuries in the last 3 seasons, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's just every year he's had an injury, which also means that he doesn't have that much. Like he's not overworked. Running backs, they usually say like 5 years, and after that they start to decline. Like 3 years in a row, he hasn't really played. It's been every year just season-ending injury. Week 1, I think last year, season-ending injury, like literally week 1. So, but yeah, if he can stay healthy, like MFB said, waiver wire pickup of the year right there.
Sure.
Let's see. We got also Tank Bigsby from Jacksonville. He had the same number of attempts as ETN. I think BBTB, we had mentioned before that game was a pretty even game.
Yeah.
He was more efficient than ETN on the ground. So it's not a situation where they just, the game's over. They just hand the ball to Tank Bigsby and say, finish the game out, sport, go and get some yards in there, buddy. It was more like, well, let's just split these guys' work. I mean, they drafted Tank Bigsby last year, and it looks like they want to use him. So
yeah, he wasn't getting any shitty time touches. It was more like pretty much use ETN for a couple plays and throw in Bigsby, and Bigsby was running with that thing. Bigsby is a great pickup. Just a stash.
Yeah, he's only rostered in 5% of leagues. Not many people were too high on him this year. So a solid pickup.
I think that this is a guy who I think I said on an earlier podcast. I had him last year, right, in hopes that like he would get worked in the offense, but it just never occurred, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess I was a year too early, right?
Right.
And now he's seeing, a split amount of workload. But one thing to note, I will say, is if you look at the goal line rush attempts, it was all ETN. I don't think they gave Bigsby one goal line rush attempt. So that's also a very large factor, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So just something to take note.
Right.
But like seeing Bigsby, what he could possibly do if ETN goes out, Bigsby is going to be that guy for sure. 20 plus
100%
goal line touches.
Exactly. Yeah. So the upside there, he's definitely.
If you have ETN, I would put, if it's a fab system, I would highly recommend going for Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to prioritize J.K. Dobbins, but you're really going to want to make sure you have your backup. Anything happens to ETN, Bigsby's going to be that guy. And he was more efficient on the ground. So if he can tear off a run and get into the end zone before ETN has a chance to put it in. And in that game, I mean, we talked about this in the last episode, ETN fumbled on the goal line. So does the coach say, hey, you know what? Let's give Tank a shot here, on the goal line. Maybe that happens. So we don't know. So just keep that in mind. But Tank Bigsby, just solid RB pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Bucky Irving from Tampa Bay. I don't know how that game script went. I didn't see that game, but he was more efficient than Rachaad White on the floor. I think almost twice as efficient. He had 9 carries for 62 yards versus Rashaad's 15 carries for 31 yards.
So he got out carried. He got out targeted out of the backfield, right?
Yeah.
Which it's not like the best combination on paper for fantasy.
Yeah.
But I think like Bucky Irving, just as like a running back, like prospect and talent, I really like, and I was targeting him a lot in like the late rounds of the drafts this year. So I like him as like, mid to late season stash. If you want to pick him up and hold him for that long, because I think, and I'm surprised they're already working him in this early. I think he will come online eventually for you. He will pay you out.
Yeah. And he's only rostered in, what is it? He's not that highly rostered, I think, in most leagues. So I think that he should be readily available. People that have drafted Rachaad White likely have him on their team already. He's rostered in 21% of leagues. This is according to Yahoo, by the way. Yeah, people that have Rachaad White probably took him because they know, if they did their research and they know, then they know that they brought him in, Bucky Irving. And so it could take touches away from Rachaad White. And this early on is it's a little bit scary if you're a Rashad White owner. So if you have Rashad White, try and get Bucky Irving if you can. Definitely good to have. Let's move on to Alexander Mattison from the Raiders, who was just better, man. Than that. Zamir White had more of the work, but he had a fumble. Madison got the receiving touchdown, and I think he could get more like worked into that running game. What do you guys think?
He just looks so much more better and efficient than Zamir White. Zamir White didn't look like he was like running hard out there. Zamir White or Alexander Mattison getting into the game really wanted that job, and I don't know. I think Alexander Mattison will take that over in a few weeks for sure.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Madison takes over the role.
Yeah,
he's had the pedigree before of being the lead back in a team, so why not this year? Yeah. Zamir was a heavy fade for me in drafts.
Very underwhelming.
So far it's looking correct. Still early, but looking correct. Zamir did get a lot more carries, right? They were down also a lot of the game though. So it just depends, right? They kind of needed the change of pace back in Alexander Mattison, right? So at the time.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, Madison from last year he was terrible in Minnesota. So, I mean, like BBTB said, maybe he's just fighting for that starting role. He's like, look, I want to prove myself. I just was in a bad situation last year. So this year is different. He's trying to make a name for himself over in Las Vegas. He's only rostered in 5% of leagues. If you want to spend a little fab on him, or if you have a late waiver claim, you could take a shot on Madison if you need the running back depth. Let's move on to Jaleel McLaughlin. If you listen to the last episode and just forward to the part we talked about the Denver Broncos, we talked about how they're all horrible. Just not good. They're just trash. MLB, you weren't there to defend them. I'm sorry, but
it's all good, bro. We suck.
Both running backs. I mean, I'm sorry, but man, both running backs were just horrible. Like I drafted Javonte, and then after I saw what he did, I thought and was like, how stupid was I, or just how just clueless was I into thinking that like maybe this offense could move the ball. And I know it's just week 1 and we're supposed to not react, but wow, Javonte was 8 attempts for 23 yards. I mean, 1 reception on 2 targets. I don't even think he had any yards on that reception. And then Jaleel McLaughlin had 15 total touches. I mean, I think you can take a shot on McLaughlin if he's on your waivers.
This is another one of the backfields where we kind of didn't know who was gonna be the guy to really take in fantasy, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what everybody wants to aim for. Now it's a rookie QB. It was game 1. It was kind of just a nasty game, right? It didn't look good for either of them. Right. I was kind of more so targeting Jaleel in like late rounds of drafts as well. Just because we even see it in week 1 here. He gets more targets, right? He got 5 targets. He got, even split of carries. So you kind of want the back who's going to get the targets, right? Yeah. Just fantasy wise. So it's an okay ad. I wouldn't burn a waiver for it.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not going to burn a waiver for it, but it's like a safe floor. Like rookie QB check down. They see Jaleel out there, they gonna hit him, right? Javonte still could. It's not that much of a gap. Javonte still could surpass and be the guy, and maybe he gets all the receiving work at next game, right? So,
and do you think it was a game script decision, like to just switch it, like change of pace, like just switch it to Jaleel?
I mean, if you're behind in the game, you got to throw, and you're gonna throw to also the back in your backfield.
No.
So that's why it seems to be Jaleel, right? When they need the guy to come back in the game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, lucky me, I drafted both of them in one of my leagues. So, man, I'm just excited now.
That's where it starts to be a headache.
Yeah. Headache is the right word to use for those guys. Last but not least for RBs, Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker is currently dealing with an abdomen injury. I don't think it's serious. I didn't read too deep into it. That's just all I read. Keep an eye out on his status. Waivers don't go in till like Tuesday night, right? Wednesday morning. If you hear news about Kenneth Walker's, it's getting, they say, he's not practicing Tuesday, or he's got it's more serious than we thought. Whatever the case is, then Zach Charbonnet, I mean, he could be a great pickup, even if you're just streaming him for a week. I mean, I think he had the touchdown off of a reception in that game. Obviously, Kenneth Walker played a lot better and was a lot more efficient on the ground. But if Kenneth Walker's out, Charbonnet will get all that work
easily. But honestly, if you have Kenneth Walker, you should have drafted Zach Charbonnet as one of your backups, or as your handcuff, because
get your
last
handcuffs.
year Kenneth Walker got injured a few times too, and Zach Charbonnet went to work. So if he's on your waiver somehow, I'd use that waiver, like that waiver pickup for him.
Yeah, Charbonnet he's actually rostered in 47% of leagues, so he's not that not really on waivers. So I mean, if he's there, and we know if they announce like, hey, it's looking like Kenneth Walker is not going to play this week, then yeah, maybe take a shot on him. But if not, then I don't know. He will only play for probably that one game, so not really worth the waiver pickup. But we're just giving you guys the news. Do what you want with it. Let's move on to tight ends. Isaiah Likely in Baltimore, man, Thursday night, opening night, he went crazy, man.
Number one.
Mark Andrews owners screaming at the TVs.
Bro. Yeah, man. People were very upset, as you should be if you drafted, Mark Andrews and you saw Isaiah Likely go out there and do what you wanted Mark Andrews to do. Only rostered in 29% of leagues. He was the tight end 1 on the week, I believe. He had 12 targets, 9 receptions, 111 yards, a touchdown. He almost had the game-tying touchdown at the end. Couldn't stay in bounds.
Off by a toe.
Yeah.
Big toe.
Imagine that toe is in bounds. How much crazier his score would have been. And it would have went to overtime. Yeah. It looks like a lot of the offense is moving through Isaiah Likely. He's, after J.K. Dobbins, my number 1 pickup. Like, I think you could flex him. You could run him as your tight end. He's definitely, you could trade him, do whatever you want. Trade him to the Mark Andrews owner. Isaiah Likely he's definitely a top pickup in the waiver wire.
Yeah, if you're number 1 and you have that number 1 waiver pickup, I'm using it on Isaiah Likely.
If you don't need the RB depth, yes, I go Likely, but I think Dobbins is the number 1, unless you're like trying to 3,000 IQ it because he's injury prone and blah blah blah. But the way Dobbins runs, he's a menace on the field.
Yeah,
RBs are more valuable.
Straight to the Mark Andrews owner with Isaiah Likely.
Exactly.
I make him a trade. Hey, look what I got.
Hey, but
okay, what can you offer?
Wasn't it one of you guys that faded Mark Andrews too?
That was my tight end fight. That was my tight end fade, man. I did not, and it was for injury reasons, but it looked like he's just out there blocking. So even worse
for it there, brother.
He actually ran a lot of routes, surprisingly.
Yeah, they just didn't want to give him the ball.
Week 1, don't overreact.
Hey, I agree, but
don't overreact.
But yeah,
who's our next tight end?
We have Colby Parkinson from the Rams. He got a decent amount of work. I mean, I think mostly after Puka went out, they started to involve. I think he was getting involved before that, but 5 targets, 4 receptions, 47 yards. Puka's out for, right now he's going on IR, so at least 4 weeks, right? So he's not going to be back till week 6. There's not many targets out there. You got Cooper Kupp, of course, Kyron, some pass catching. The other wide receiver there, Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson. But, the tight end landscape is kind of thin. You might not have to burn a waiver claim on him. But if you're bidding like Fab, I'd put like a low bid on him, like a $1 or something, just to maybe you pick him up. He had a decent amount of yards, 5 targets, 4 receptions. He did all right compared to, tight ends that were going in the 4th round, 5th round, like Kincaid and
Yeah.
and McBride and all these other guys, Kittle, all did, I think, equal or worse than that. So,
Yeah.
I think that's it for tight ends. Any other thoughts on these guys or?
Nah.
So,
Cool. We're just going to get into defenses and then we have one kicker for you guys. Please don't leave. Please listen in for the kicker. Defense, obviously, any team, we mentioned this in the last episode, any team that's playing the Panthers, play that defense, no matter what.
Yeah. And
Chargers
Chargers
defense
are playing the Panthers.
Yeah, bro, play
Panthers
them.
only totaled 193 yards of offense.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That's sickening. Yeah, target them. Any team that's playing against Carolina, target that defense. So Chargers, number one pickup. Jacksonville's playing against Cleveland. I mean, we saw Deshaun Watson
look bad. So,
bro, yeah, disgusting. I definitely want to take anyone who's playing against those two teams for now. From what we've seen, Deshaun Watson, who knows, he picks it up, but from what we saw, I don't think so. I think that's it for the defenses. I mean, if the Saints defense are out there, someone left them on the waivers, pick them up. Like they did pretty good. I don't know who their matchup is this week.
It's the Cowboys. I don't know if I played against the Cowboys, but
oh, never mind.
After that,
take that back. Yeah, you can stash them if you want. Moving on to the kicker, Chris Boswell. So he had 26 fantasy points, was it? Yeah, 26 fantasy points. I mean, he did better than most people's first and second round picks.
Low-key went dumb.
Maybe even
and I
combined.
think especially for next week,
yeah,
the Steelers D is solid, right?
Yep.
And they play the Broncos, bro, and Bo Nix.
Oh,
so they're going to smother them, and it's going to be a lot of short fields. And I see probably another decent kicking performance out of him, bro.
I mean, I think that with Chris Boswell in that offense, Mike Tomlin just wants to win, and they've got Justin Fields throwing the ball. I don't think they're getting a lot of touchdowns, so they just get close enough, get a kick in, and he's hit some 50-yarders, 55-yarders, I'm sure. So
exactly,
he hit 3 50-plus yard field goals this last week. So Boswell is a solid kicker. If you didn't get lucky and get Aubrey or Jake Moody or those other well-known kickers, Chris Boswell's a good pickup this week. You guys want to rank pickups for this week, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah. Just one last thing. Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson doing his thing, brother.
Juwan Johnson, the tight end for the Saints. Remember,
Johnson.
Yeah, this was BBTB's sleeper pick. By the way, they played the Panthers, so if he does it again next week, you can pick him up against the Cowboys. I'll pick him up.
And Tyreek Hill out of the top 7. Yeah,
exactly. Tyreek Hill, not top 7 wide receiver. In my opinion, I'm gonna just name my top 3 picks. I'm gonna go J.K. Dobbins, Isaiah Likely, and then I want to say Bucky Irving if he's there. But after that, I want to go Lazard for wide receiver. I really like. I think he's got a good connection with Aaron Rodgers.
I'd probably go Isaiah Likely, J.K. Dobbins, and honestly, the Chargers defense. They're gonna get you like 20 points, man. That's what I see. Chargers had a great game against the Raiders, and the Raiders' offense is better than the Panthers' offense. So it's like, right. I think they just kill them on the defensive side. So I'd probably use my waiver pickup on the Chargers.
Okay, MFB.
Probably similar. J.K. Dobbins, Isaiah Likely, and I'll say Brandon Cooks. They're on a good offense. Dak had a slow game, and they still did decent. So
yeah,
he probably comes back and does better in the next weeks.
Yeah. All right. That's the week 1 waiver pickups episode. We'll see you guys on the next episode. And stay tuned. Listen in for all your fantasy football, information.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
Peace.